How did you find out someone had a crush on you? Story 1. We were mutual friends, so sat together in a few classes and occasionally texted about homework. I was looking for our friend at a Halloween party one weekend and he offered to help me. The party's packed and he says, "Want to platonically hold hands so we don't lose each other?" I knew it then, and I was already interested, but he'd been so shy whenever I hinted at liking him. So I waited him out. 3 drinks later, we'd given up on finding our friend and are sitting on the lawn when he turns to me and says, "I have a very not little crush on you, so just wanted to get that out of the way." We had a blast, talking a little longer, and he walked me home. The next weekend, I saw him again at a party, lacking breathing room, and yelled in his ear, "I'm going outside. Do you want to come with me and non-platonically hold hands so we don't lose each other?" He cracked a mile-wide smile, planted one on me, and we've been together since. Story 2. She worked at the McDonald's near my house. She kept giving me free bacon every time I ordered a McDouble. I don't eat pork. After like the 3rd time, I go in the store to complain. The cashier calls up the girl in the back and she basically explains the bacon was her way of flirting with me. She was cute, so we did end up dating for a bit. Story 3. When I was about 10, this girl in my class had a crush on me. She made it obvious, but I wasn't interested at the time. After school, we never saw each other for a few years. Then at 18, she apparently still had a crush on me. We've been married 18 years now. Story 4. We had a lockdown drill, and at the time, I was in Spanish with one of her best friends. So she, very carefully and deliberately, crawls over to me from the other side of the room. She's 15, 6'2", and just army crawling her way across the room towards me. Literally everyone in the class, including the teacher, is just staring at this girl. Let's call her Maria. I'm sure if the teacher had a second to prepare, she would have told Maria not to do this. But again, this is a big girl just army crawling her way across the floor. No one woke up and thought this would be what they would see that day. So she gets across the room and just sits up next to me and greets me. She makes small talk, which is normal because we're kind of friends too, because we've hung out in groups before outside of school, and we're also part of an after-school thing. So far, the army crawling is the only abnormal thing to happen here. Story 5. Suddenly, she asks me, "So, is there anyone you like?" And at the time, I did kind of like this one girl that we'll call Elizabeth. But she's part of the group and the after-school thing and her best friend, and we're all about 15 to 16, so I didn't want to say her name, so I just said, "Yay. Is it Elizabeth?" You should also her out. But what if she won't? Maria had a very serious look on her face, and being like half her size, I was briefly scared for my safety because she also said this with a lot of authority. As it turns out, Elizabeth had had a crush on me for weeks and just constantly talked about me to her friends, who'd repeatedly tell her to just ask me out, but that she was too scared to make the first move, and they were all sick and tired of hearing about me. So, yeah, that's how I found out that Elizabeth had a crush on me. Asked her a few days later, because I was a pussy and was too scared to ask her out that same day or any of the other days I saw her, and we dated for the next 10 months or so. She was actually my first real girlfriend and is still one of my longest relationships to date. Story 6. We were really drunk and just talking crap when he said, "God, I had such a crush on you growing up." And I replied with, "What the shit? I had a crush on you." Nothing else came of it, but I realized that I really don't know when someone is interested. I just assume I'm seen as a friend. Story 7. I was pretty sure my friend's little sister had a crush on me when she started following me around like a lost puppy. Then she randomly started calling me by my first and middle name. Then she found out my birthday from someone and started telling me our age difference. It was kind of cute until she decided she should tell her friends that we were dating. We were not dating. I had a nice conversation with her, letting her know that her crush was flattering, but she was way too young for me and that she needed to stop telling people that we were dating since it was not true and could get me in a lot of trouble. In true typical teenager logic, she said that her parents wouldn't have a problem with it and I could date her if I wanted to. Story 8. I talked to her at an ice cream shop. She was working behind the counter. First time meeting her and thought she was way out of my league. Had to be the prettiest girl I've ever seen. Red hair and blue eyes. No one else was there, and she was recommending different things. Got my ice cream and left. I noticed her smiling a lot at me, which I was never used to. I've never thought myself to be attractive, and I didn't date growing up. Came back a few days later and just decided to ask her out randomly to my friend's party. She actually gave me her number, and we met up before the party at the park. Ended up getting dinner and going to the movies after. It was a very long first date, but we didn't seem to want it to end. 9 years later, we are married and our baby just turned 1 year old. You never know till you ask. Story 9. When I was in 7th grade, a boy wrote me the sweetest poem. I have it saved somewhere still. I still remember the line, "I'll take you to the movies, or even to the mall, even though I'm short, and even though you're tall. Mike, wherever you are, I hope you're happy and have the best woman ever." Edit. Aw, thanks everyone. Alas, we did not date, but this is because I was 12 and wasn't allowed. But I remember this poem and it's been over 30 years. I am mother to a short king myself, and I hope he's as great as Mike the poet. Kind-hearted and romantic is a winning combination by anyone's standards. Story 10. When I was in 10th grade, I was on a high school concert band trip to another state. We were riding on a bus, and it was the middle of the night. Pretty much everyone was asleep, but I've never been able to sleep in a vehicle, so I was still awake. This charter bus had outlets, but for some reason, only on the right side of the bus. The girl to the left of me, across the aisle, asked me if she could use our outlet to charge her phone. She had a really short charging cord, and she kept using her phone after she plugged it in, so she had to lean over into the aisle. After a few minutes, she put her head on my shoulder while using her phone. I was stunned. Many guys considered this girl to be the prettiest in our class, and I was a huge dork that, to my knowledge, no one ever paid attention to. I sort of looked around, and everyone else was sleeping. I wondered if I should say something or do something, but I didn't. I just sat there not moving and said nothing. Eventually, she unplugged her phone and stopped putting her head on me. I always wondered if it was intentional or if she just thought she was leaning her head on the seat, lol. Story 11. She sent me an email with pornographic photos with our heads pasted on them. She had been an internet friend that I had no romantic interest in and never flirted with. She never flirted with me either, so far as I could tell. We had talked for about 3 years, almost daily, but always platonic stuff. She was quite a bit older than me, and while I never told her this, I looked at her more like a fun aunt. I got a girlfriend, and when I told my friend about it, she absolutely flipped out, cussed me up one side and down the other, told me I had broken her heart. On and on and on. I was stunned. I apologized and told her I had just seen us as friends and hadn't meant to make her think it was anything more than that. That's when the porn photos started showing up. And creepy, this could have been us messages. I blocked her on everything, which was like 2 things because this was 20 years ago. About a year ago, I got curious and looked up her name. She ran for and won a small government position in her hometown about 3 years back. Found some newspaper articles and discovered a few things. Story 12. I used to work in a call center. Hell on earth, do not recommend. Which had those old high-walled cubicles in which you could isolate yourself if you lean forward enough and not see anything around you. One day I am on a call and I am super focused. Leaning forward, staring at my screen, you get the picture. Now at the time I had really long hair, waist-lengthish, so I was pretty used to it getting caught in stuff. As I am chatting away, I feel as though my hair is being tugged very lightly. No biggie, it happens often, and because of the walls of my cubicle, I can't really see anything in my peripherals. After a while, the sensation grows and starts to become distracting, so I glance over my shoulder, and what do I see? My good friend and co-worker, or so I thought, sniffing, kissing a lock of my hair. I was so stunned I couldn't even react. This mofo was in full weeb mode. It was exactly like something you'd see in an anime. I don't know how to explain this more accurately. I still feel icky remembering this. Story 13. She called me and asked why I had never asked her out on a date. She knew I was interested because I had told some friends that I was, and they had told her. The reason I hadn't is because her brother and I were friends before I met her. When she called, I told her I'd be thrilled to take her out, but I wanted to make sure it was cool with her brother first. He was cool with it, and we've been together 18 years now. Dating a friend's sister could have turned out bad, though TBH. Story 14. She offered to shave her vagina for me. Context. I was at work having a conversation with a couple of female coworkers about their grooming routines. I worked in a mostly female clothes shop at the time. As they were explaining their choice of either bikini lines, runway strips, or Brazilian, they then asked me, as a guy, what I preferred. I said I quite like it neat or shaved, and another female colleague walked in and blurted out, "I'd shave mine for you," turned bright red and then hurried out of the room. I don't think she meant to say it quite as bluntly as she did, bless her. I was in a relationship at the time, so nothing happened between us. Story 15. I can finally tell a story on this subject. This happened quite recently, and I went on vacation to Malta, where I have some family and 2 friends that moved there from my country. I met up with both of them separately, and one basically ghosted me afterwards, even though she was the one to ask me to come to Malta for a week. Bitch. The other one was busy with work, so I just stayed home grandma's place for a day, and my father called an old friend of his who has a daughter my age. She had nothing to that evening and invited me to go for a coffee. Of course, I said yes. Anything is better than sitting at home doing basically nothing. She picked me up and we just went somewhere to get a coffee. So during the coffee, we had a good talk and laugh as well, and a lot of the same interests. Afterwards, I paid for the coffee even though she offered to pay, because she invited me for a coffee. Understandable, but I had a great time, so I wanted to pay. The next morning, she sent me a good morning text. No one I know has done that before to me, so she was the first. We send texts back and forth, and she wanted to meet up again. It was at this meet I noticed the way she was looking, and I knew she had a crush on me. The next day we went again, but for dinner this time, and later in the evening on a bench, she slowly got closer and closer. I noticed she wanted to kiss me, but the moron I am didn't react the first time. I did get to kiss her like a minute later. Then a few days later I had sex with her, and she is my girlfriend now. Overall, my vacation was a success. Not in the way I thought it would go, but this was way better. Story 16. She approached me. Now I did have a bad crush on her. I mean a really, really bad one. For the first few weeks, I couldn't even look into her eyes while saying hello. Thanks to my brooding expression, though, she never chalked it up to me being terrified. I did start to feel like she was interested by the way she was slowly steering me into approaching her. But like I said, it was really, really bad. Thankfully, she eventually just approached me at a party, invited me to a drink, and told me she wanted to get to know me. When we eventually ended up going out for roughly 6 months, she admitted to a lot of things I suspected early on, but was too shy and not confident enough to follow up on. That she thought I was intriguing, she really wanted to find more about me from the day we first met. You know, at the time I couldn't even look at her without having a heart attack. Moral of the story: shoot your shot, guys. Do it respectfully and charmingly, and it will be fine one way or the other. Story 17. I had a crush on a girl that worked for me. We would chat all the time at work, but since she was an employee, I made sure to keep my distance. We went to an after-work house part with co-workers, and she kissed me. My manager found out the next day and transferred her to a different department, and we started dating. We have been married for 12 years. Last story. It was weird. I asked her out and she said she was a lesbian, and I was crushed, but I respected it. Found out later from a mutual friend that she was lying, actually liked me too, and she quote said, "It wasn't in the plan for me to ask her yet." The mutual friend essentially said, "Dodge that bullet, while you still have a chance." Edit. For those who have been asking, this was in first year of university. I saw her around campus fairly regularly after that, and she never approached me about it. And the mutual friend had a massive falling out with her for some reason or another, and then we grew apart as the years went on. Very anticlimactic, I know, but what are you going to do? Edit 2. My problem with it was indeed the lying right from the start, no matter what plan she had. I did question said mutual friend to give her the benefit of the doubt regarding her sexuality. It can be complicated. But they were very insistent, and I had no reason to doubt the mutual, as they had never lied to me before or after. If you like the stories, subscribe and click the bell to get notifications. Thanks a lot for watching. See you next time.